As most of you know, most all of you should know by now, the NFL is officially suspending Calvin Ridley, standout wide receiver from the Atlanta Falcons, guy who had 1,300 yards receiving in 2020, along with 9 touchdowns. He has been suspended for the entirety of at least the 2022 season for gambling on NFL games. You in hot water when that comes. When that kind of situation happens, you are in Pete Rose territory now. You was about to say around and never play this game again.
Yeah, so I was like, somewhere Pete Rose is like, finally.
I told you guys, everybody does it.
Take the fucking spotlight off me. That was 50 years ago.
This is huge. This is really a big story in the NFL because this is something that, and I was asked this earlier online, whether or not, every player knows and understands that you cannot gamble on games. When I tell you that you likely cannot turn a corner in your workout facility in the NFL without seeing a laminated, posted sign that reminds you that it is not okay to gamble on games in this league. I think we all, everyone is well aware of that, as far as players, as far as coaches, as far as training staff. Yes. We all know it's 100%. There is not a single person in the NFL who participates in this sport who does not know that is like a golden rule. That is like one of those rules that you don't really hear about it being broken very much, because that's one that can end everything for you as a participant in the NFL.
Cardinal sin.
That is a cardinal sin. That's like damn near you get the death penalty for that. What's considered the death penalty in the NFL, which is complete banishment.
Yep.
Now, I wish it was just that simple to be like, hey, you got caught gambling, and the NFL lays out the punishment and we move on about our day. But as you know, that is not how things work in this world. It can never be simple.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in depth. I was shocked when I heard this. When I heard it come out, when I heard this news hit, it was shocking because it's like, how do you gamble? How do you, it doesn't really make sense as a player, because there's so many variables that can all end up pretty negatively if you get caught gambling, that will all end up negatively if you get caught gambling in the NFL. Now, there's a lot more to this. I mean, what did you think when you first saw this, Justin? I mean, what was your first reaction?
The first thing I thought was, how the hell did they keep this under wraps so long? Initially, I thought, because, he missed the whole season or whatever, or, the majority of the season. I was like, oh, shit, did they know about this the whole time? And they just said it was mental health reasons, or I think they said personal reasons. Initially. Because he was on NFI
twice.
He was on NFI
twice on mental health breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on NFI for a long time. And I think this actually happened when he was on the NFI list. Which kind of raises an interesting question. Is that if you're not on a roster, does it matter if you're gambling?
There's a variable right there. If you're not an active participant, you're not on the active roster.
Yeah.
Does it matter? Does it matter?
See,
I think
the plot thickens.
The plot does thicken, because I didn't really think about that, because the way that I've always seen it is, as long as you are an active role, like you are signed to a team, as long as you're signed to a team, or you have not declared retirement, right. I would have thought that that's where you're in the bubble of you can't gamble on games, because you're not retired and you're not even if you're a free agent, I feel like that's still a rule.
Yeah. See, I was like, how different is being on NFI than being a free agent? I mean, he's not in the facility. I mean, obviously, yes, you could still text guys, "Hey, man, are you hurt this week? Are you good to go? How are we looking?
You gonna play? What's up? What's good? What's good?
I mean, that could happen. But
how you feel? How was practice this week?
I mean, from what I've gathered so far, he was, in a completely different state on his break. So I'm really curious. I mean, I haven't looked at bylaws or anything like that. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not my money, so I don't care that much. But if somebody wants to tell me, how the legalities or how that kind of protocol works, I'd be more than happy to read 2 sentences.
This is the statement from the NFL, and most people have probably seen this already. I'm just going to breeze through it real quickly. It says, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell today suspended Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons indefinitely through at least the conclusion of the 2022 season for betting on NFL games in the 2021 season. The activity took place during a 5-day period in late November 2021, while Ridley was not with the team and was away from the club's facility on the NFI non-football illness list. A league investigation uncovered no evidence indicating any inside information was used or that any game was compromised in any way, nor was there evidence suggesting any awareness by coaches, staff, teammates, or other players of his betting activity.
They had to say that.
They have to legally say that.
Even if there was like text messages and everything, they can't acknowledge this.
The moment you acknowledge anybody knew, credibility for the league's fairness, which is questionable to a lot of people to begin with, is shot up and out the window, verifiably. Now, that's the main gist of this. Now, Goodell went on to talk about all this other shit about, integrity of the game, whatever with that, right? We know that that's what's really at stake when you talk about gambling on games, of any sport. If you're a player and participant in any sport and you gamble on that sport, that does jeopardize the credibility of the level playing field. But usually that's when somebody is involved with on-field action, like you're out there.
Yes.
And you're betting on, a team.
Yeah, you have a direct effect on the outcome of a game.
Exactly. You have an effect on that. Now, also, when you look at, and we have this was broken by what's his name here? Albert Breer was the one who broke this, right? So it kind of, he goes through it. There's a bit of, and I want to go through this and kind of, give people a little bit of perspective here before we really get into the nitty gritty of this. Cause there's a topic I want to get into that is directly related to this, that I think, people would be interested to hear. But I want to give you as much information as I can about this situation before we kind of mesh these things together. So how did Calvin Ridley get busted? He was in Florida and used the only gambling app legal in the state. The app notified a compliance company the NFL has hired called Genius for this kind of thing. So, and I can already kind of see how this played out. In my mind, I know how he ended up gambling on this. I don't think that he did it because he was necessarily trying to gamble on NFL games. And I'll get to it. I'll explain why in a second. That he was out of state was a factor in Ridley's activity being flagged. So I have, and I'm in the state of Georgia. We're both in the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. And if you try to use DraftKings, you can't use it because online gambling is not legal in the state of Georgia. So the problem begins where, as a player, I'm thinking to myself, when this was all made legal a couple years back, man, wouldn't it be great? What would it be like if you gamble on games? They're making it legal now, right? You know what I mean? That would be kind of cool, right? Yeah, but you can't. So you move on. But in this situation, he's in a unique spot where he's not on the team technically. He's on the team as in they have his rights. He's signed to them, but he's not an active part of the team, right? So he's in Florida hanging out. Not really, he's not with the team. He's taking his time off. Mental issues. He's trying to get himself right. He's, with some family in Florida. You're sitting there and you see a DraftKings commercial come on from the NFL. on TV. And they've got the Jaguars this week. Shit. Wonder if it'd be worth it to see if I can get on that app.
Easy come up.
I think it's legal, right? I just want to see if it'll work, right? You know?
Oh, shit.
So he whips out his phone, downloads the DraftKings app that the NFL has allowed to be a sponsor officially of the NFL.
You can't watch a single game without seeing the DraftKings.
Oh, you see fucking over-unders right there on the screen. Part of the damn user interface. Part of the experience. So, you're sitting there. Calvin Ridley, who's not on the team, feels like, hey, would they care? How would they know? How would they know? I'm just going to go on here. I'm going to make up a fake name, yada, 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 not knowing that your SIM, your IP that your phone uses, everything has your name on it, of course. You should have used a VPN. That's something that the NFL don't sponsor or doesn't have as a sponsor, VPN. Should have used yourself a VPN. Would have hid you from, but then it wouldn't let you sign up because they got to know what state you're in. I know this because I tried it. So Ridley gets on this app, signs up in Florida, and of course, a red flag comes up by this company called Genius because Calvin Ridley's name popping up as a new account would match the Calvin Ridley name that is actually on an NFL roster in their database, I'm sure, because they have a database with everyone's name, birth date, maybe even their social security number as well. You never know.
Sure, yeah.
So with all these things matching up, boom, he gets popped. The NFL is alerted. Of course, this is how you track people down. This is why I always tell people, as much true crime shows as I watch on TV and on YouTube, don't you ever commit a crime with your cell phone. If you're going to commit a crime, don't be around your cell phone because that's how they're going to lock you in. That's how they link you in. That's how they give you life.
Yes.
Just a heads up for the would-be perpetrators out there. Leave your phone at the house. Set it to schedule text messages to go out every 10 minutes. They'll never get you. They'll never get you. It says here he was placed on the NFL or the NFI list on November 5th. The bets happened from November 23rd to November 28th. It was a series of less than 10 wagers from his cell phone, including three under 5 and under 8 game parlays. He did bet on the Falcons, but never against them.
Okay.
I mean, hey, he's got some integrity. You know what I mean? At least.
Hey, yeah. Now I'm gonna ride with my dogs.
I'm gonna ride with my squad. They're going to Duval. Yeah, they're gonna get that one. They're gonna get that dub. So he put on some bets. He says here, and here's one more tweet from Albert Breer. He says, I see people painting Calvin Ridley as a victim here. And I mean, come on, we all understand why a sports league can't allow its players to bet on its games, right? And why it has to come down on a player if it happens. I swear it's not that complicated. Now, to an extent, I agree. Yes, it is not. You are not getting let off the hook if you get caught gambling by any sports league.
By no means.
They are not letting you off the hook. You will pay a severe price. Now, Calvin Ridley had his own response to this situation as well.
Yeah, I don't know who let him make this fucking tweet, man.
I don't know why he tweeted this. I really don't know why he tweeted this. He says, I bet $1,500 total. I don't have a gambling problem.
Why would you do this?
Why?
What was the movie with Will Smith where he was the con man? You die with the lie.
To the grave, baby. I don't know what they're talking about.
Unless they got a picture of me on my phone.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
They got the whole thing videoed of me shooting this thing, like, nah, man.
Hitting the send button while holding my picture ID in my hand.
Yeah. Like, come on,
bro.
You know
what I mean?
Like, this is 2022. It wasn't me. My boy had my phone.
My shit got hacked, cuz.
I got hacked. Yeah. I mean, somebody gonna believe you nowadays.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, people believe anything now.
There were teams who were actively trying to trade for him. And the Falcons backed out of talks because they could not in good faith trade him because they had already been alerted by the NFL about his situation and that he was going to get suspended.
Yep.
So they had to back out of numerous conversations about trading for Calvin Ridley. Now, there's also some, and honestly, there is another side to this story that cannot be ignored. Cannot be ignored. And I'm going to do the respect of putting up this tweet here, my boy Charles James II, because his tweet really does make a very valid point, and it's something that we do have to talk about because this is not something that's happening in a vacuum. This is something that, when you're looking at it from one end, you have what appears to be a league that is taking, full control of the situation, bringing the hammer down on a player who's violated one of the most sacred rules in not only football, but sports in general. You don't bet on the games. True enough. Now, when you say you don't bet on the games, then there has to be something of equal representation in investigating and bringing a hammer down when we talk about a situation like this. Calvin Ridley getting suspended a year for betting on games, but they literally tried to pay Brian Flores to tank on his team season, but the NFL wants to talk about integrity. Stop it. And this does draw some eyes here. I mean, some of his hot takes I just cannot stand to read or listen to. But Emmanuel Acho, he's got his eyes on this tweet apparently. But I think that this is a valid point that the NFL has no answer to. They literally have no answer to this because at the end of the day, this is a league that claims it wants to talk about integrity, but not only did we have one of the premier NFL head coaches come out and say, and look, you say what you want about Brian Flores. He is a premier NFL head coach. Yep. He should be still, to this day, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He has winning record with that franchise. He carried that franchise with a roster that was built to lose. He carried that franchise to winning seasons. When he comes out and says himself that he was offered money to tank, which is in a way, which is clearly a way of manipulating the integrity and the fairness of the sport itself, which is in the same league, in the same category, you could even say, as gambling, except you're pretty much assuring yourself something by paying for a service from a head coach to lose. When we know that is not in accordance with the principles of the NFL, of sports and team sports in general. The NFL is the NFL is an entity that has directly aligned itself with gambling, has directly gotten in bed with gambling. A team that has moved, an entity that has moved a team. What was the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas, the capital of gambling, the gambling capital of this country. So what does it say about the rules of it when there are so many things that you can look at from the outside and say, well, doesn't the NFL already pretty much use gambling in games to make more money?
Yep.
Do we not think that they're influencing these games with the ridiculous amounts of bad calls and misses on things that professional referees should never miss on? These are things that are causing, untold controversy in the league itself, but amongst fans, but also it brings in that kind of element of as to whether or not teams are gambling. I mean, I look at the franchise owners and I say, if you're the Miami Dolphins owner and you're paying, if Brian Flores accepts $100,000 a game to lose, well, who's to say that as the owner, I wouldn't go bet $5 million on every game to make sure, to get to just load up the money, and they can do that through many third parties. You would never know. You would never find out.
Oh yeah, guys with that type of money are excellent at hiding their moves.
There's
I'm not
a
saying,
lot of
and I'm by no
hypocrisy.
means
There's
saying
a
that
lot
he's
of
doing this.
hypocrisy being slung around
Oh, for
when
sure.
you look at how they punish a player, but they haven't even really looked into the situation with Brian Flores being offered to be paid to lose games. That's gambling in a sense too. So, how do you look at this with all these things considered? Because again, it's much, much bigger than just, Calvin Ridley got caught gambling $1,500 on football games when he wasn't even like actively playing.
Man, there's so many layers to this thing. And the fact that now that, the NFL is in bed with, organized gambling, and, maybe some unorganized, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it for a second.
And anytime you lie down, you lie down with dogs, you know what happened.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, this is, I don't want to say it's a byproduct of, us aligning ourselves with that industry. Because, I mean, I'm sure these things have happened in the past and, were unchecked or just didn't get caught because guys did it better. If you go to a bookie in person or something, I guess there's not really a way to get caught. I mean, I hope that hasn't happened in the past, but I mean, human nature tells you it surely has.
I mean, there's a good chance that it has. Absolutely.
It is a little unnerving that for a game that stresses, integrity, fairness, so much that there's, one standard, it seems, for players.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
and it's not only with gambling that it seems that there's a certain way that punishment is doled out on players versus staff, administration, and so on. But then you turn around and someone in administration, coach, can do the same thing, and they we're gonna let the law look at this before we do anything. So there's always been, some, and I get it. That's more the forward-facing part of the league is the players. So we got to be swift, so the fans can feel good about their Sunday afternoons.
I mean, I think that there's and no, I agree with what you're saying. I think that the NFL obviously comes down on this immediately because they want it to seem like, we are all about the fairness of the game. We're all about consistency and the continuity of our game being fair and highly competitive, and the best team wins. When that's something that's questionable. That's something that has been questionable over the last few decades. Just looking at this, and again, I really do believe that if you get caught doing this shit, you should be punished. Now, there has to be consideration for all parts. He did meet with Goodell. He admitted to Goodell that he did it. He didn't try to deny it. And, that was noted in the official release statement from the NFL. But again, I mean, his whole season, 11 million. I mean, I could see like, okay, let's think about this for a second. And I think this is another point that people, if you're really being honest with yourself, this is literally worse than what Calvin Ridley did, in my opinion. Tom Brady deflating footballs. How many games did he get for that? Four? 6?
Ultimately. And that was,
he got 4 games. It was started at 6 and they brought it down to 4.
Yeah, he appealed it, and I think at the end he just gave up because he was like, fuck it, I don't want to, hash it out and end up losing more games. If we're talking about time,
you're right. If we're talking about the integrity of the fucking game, Tom Brady deflated footballs during a playoff game with a chance to get to the Super Bowl, I believe. Either it was it may have been divisional. I believe it was divisional. But let's be real. When you get caught, it ain't the first time you've done some shit like that.
Right.
When you get caught, it's just the first time you got caught. But you usually get caught because you become complacent in how you do it, and you're not
Right.
paying attention to little details, and you end up slipping up. So Tom Brady may well have been cheating his entire career in the playoffs, deflating balls in cold weather games to give his receivers the ability to catch the balls easier. You have literally undermined the entire integrity of the NFL as a competitive sport in doing that.
Yep.
There was a
just
legal investigation into this because Tom Brady
it was the
destroyed
Congress.
his cell phone.
We're up here spending taxpayer dollars on this shit, man. That's insane to
You understand what I'm saying? Like, this dude literally destroyed his cell phone when the government was investigating this.
Obstruction of justice, man. Come on.
4 games. So where's the consistency? Where's the continuity in that? Because that was actual cheating. That was literal cheating. You got film of fucking Titans players grabbing the ball after a tackle to give to the referee, and he squeezes it, and it fucking folds in on him. And he looks at the ball like, what the fuck? He's like, hey, look at this, ref, and tosses him the ball. Like,
I don't know. No, I ain't see nothing.
Hey, you know, we all know. I mean, the players in the league, you say who's the cheaters, you know there's only one team that gets called up first, and New England motherfucking Patriots. 2007. Spygate. This was literally cheating, being caught red-handed. You got tapes of other teams' signals, calls, formations, everything that you could, every part of the recipe to do a good cheat, to do some good cheating. The New England Patriots got caught. They got caught.
Yeah.
$500,000 fine, and they lost like 2 draft picks.
They'll piss away $500,000. You want my pocket money?
You know what I mean? So when we're talking about the integrity of the sport, there is a trail of destruction that completely contradicts the statement of Roger Goodell to try and argue that Calvin Ridley is undermining the integrity of the sport. The integrity of the sport has been undermined numerous times by numerous people in high up positions, yet the lowly player who was not even on the roster as an active player at the time, gets a year-long suspension when Bill Belichick never got a suspension. Tom Brady got a 4-game suspension after the second time that his team got caught cheating. The second time. He got a 4-game suspension. And now, here you have the owner of the Dolphins being accused of offering Brian Flores $100,000 a loss. That undermines the integrity of the game. Hugh Jackson out in Cleveland, he act like he didn't know, but he knew he was getting paid to lose in Cleveland. It's in the contract. You can go look at the paperwork. It's on a contract. If you really want to investigate it, you can find the undermining of the game's actual integrity on numerous levels in the NFL, yet none of these people have faced any consequences of any true stature except for the guy who bet $1,500 on a fucking phone app, and he's sitting out a year and he's essentially being fined $11 million.